You know, one of the things that I miss the most about classic games is that you could just pick up a cartridge, throw it in the console, and play your game. But that was actually the case for a lot longer than I think you realize. I mean, of course, there's the obvious cartridges, which we had on the Atari back in the 70s and Nintendo in the 80s. And of course, even though Nintendo held on to cartridge media for a long time, other game companies went to disc based, but you could still play the games directly off the disc. And like even when Sony went from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, or when Nintendo finally adopted disc based media with the GameCube, they were still putting their entire games on the disc, and the game was being played off the disc. And even though you could add a hard drive to the original PS2 and the original Xbox came with a built-in hard drive, those hard drives were only ever used for things like updates and save files. The only piece of media that I know of that you would actually install onto the hard drive from a disc was on the Xbox with the Halo 2 multiplayer map pack. And funny enough, not only did this disc update Halo 2 for you, but it could also just be installed on any Xbox. So if one person had this at a LAN party, everybody had those maps. It was only after the introduction of the PS3 that games started to actually be installed onto the internal hard drive from the discs, but Xbox, well, they had a different opinion about that. See, because every version of the PS3 came with an internal hard drive, just like how every original Xbox had a built-in hard drive. But when Microsoft introduced the Xbox 360, they actually introduced versions that did not have internal hard drives, which meant that for a very, very long time through the Xbox's lifespan, it was a requirement that your games had to play off the disc. Like if you had something like an Xbox 360 arcade and you wanted to go downloading games off of the Xbox Live Store, you would have to buy something like this, which was the hard drive module for the original Xbox 360. It was only later in the Xbox 360's life that that requirement ended up getting lifted, which is good because, well, a game like this, Grand Theft Auto 5, actually required 2 discs, one of which had to be installed onto the internal hard drive of your Xbox. And what makes this even funnier is that Microsoft made this requirement, and yet they were the ones still using DVDs for their games, whereas Sony was using Blu-rays. This is why Rockstar had to put GTA 5 on 2 discs for the 360 and 1 disc on the PS3. But of course nowadays, even if the disc contains the entire game, we have to install it to the hard drive of our modern consoles because, well, disc-based media isn't exactly the fastest reading media for high-resolution textures. And so because of that, that pretty much just spells the end for being able to buy a game on a piece of media, throw it in your console, and just have it play with no pre-install required, right? No, actually. Nintendo is actually the last company still holding on to the ability for players to buy their games on a cartridge, put it in the console, and have it play with no installs required. Now, there are a few exceptions for games that are bigger than Nintendo's cartridge size, but after so many years of being able to just buy a game, put it in your console, and play it immediately with no installs required, Nintendo is the last company allowing their players to do it. And on the Switch 2, they've even managed to do it with Cyberpunk, so, credit where it's due.